and large, you can tell the importance of something by how many places it's located. But if it's something that we never talked about, is sort of mentioned in passing in the summary, and is only in one place in the book, for example, then probably less likely that I'll be talking about.
Okay, and then I have one other question for the exam. You said it's going to be similar to this as far as like what's in the textbook, and then you said something like there's interpretation questions too, or
yeah. So a lot of so this isn't just physiology, right? This isn't just anatomy. It's anatomy and physiology of the brain. And so sometimes we talk about things like saltatory conduction, and it's not just a matter of explaining what it is, but also, why is this relevant? So why is saltatory conduction relevant? I'll just ask y'all right now. What do you think is relevant from how we talk about it before? Say it again. Increases the speed. Yeah, why does that matter? Why does it matter that it increases the speed? Yeah, that's right. So it's saltatory conduction increases the speed of the action potential so that we can do all the things we do that are really fast, right? I might ask a more specific kind of relevance question, like how is myelin relevant to multiple sclerosis, right? So you see how it's slightly different than how does multiple sclerosis work, but I want you to think of why something's important, right? So the test is not Scantron. It'll be you want to bring anything for it except for yourself and a writing implement, maybe 2 backup. That was good. Pencil's nice as long as I can read it. Pen is just easier for me to read and for Laura Camper to read. But I know when you're writing something, sometimes you want to fix things and then it gets messy. So just judge yourself or know yourself a little bit and decide what's best. I don't care either way. So there will be short answers, drawings to label. I might have you draw something simple, and there will be a couple of like fill in the blank, multiple choice type things just to do checks. Yes.
Is there a study guide, or do you know if there will be a review session?
Laura's holding review sessions still, so there will be review sessions with Laura, the TA. She held one this week. Did anybody go to it? How did that go?
Yeah, there were 5 or 6 of us there, and she just wanted to know what we had questions on, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah, she'll do more if you say you can do an exam review. She's great. Who else? I saw a couple other hands.
Just regarding the reviews, will they be at like the same time every week, or will she give a certain amount of notice for those of us that might have to
She's
work?
posting them on D2L early in the week. She's working, which is why they're limited. So she doesn't always know her availability before the week. And the other problem is when they've been sparsely attended, it's hard for her to prioritize, or it's been hard for her to prioritize those. So if y'all want review sessions, y'all need to be emailing her, because she's not getting any responses when she's posting this stuff. And I was like, why don't you go ahead and hold one anyway and see who shows up. So if you haven't been emailing her already, go ahead and do that so she knows there's interest. So otherwise she doesn't know that there's a need. I tell her, but if she hears it from multiple people, that'll be better. In terms of I won't be posting a review sheet. Go from your notes. The danger with review sheets, well, I'll tell you a quick aside. I know I have a friend that uses her review sheets. What she posts are like literally an entire list of all the contents in her class. So it's like, here, study everything. And I know a lot of people that do that. Because the danger with review sheets is that if I give you a review sheet, a lot of people will only study what's on the review sheet and won't go outside that. And if there's a relevance question, that's not something I can usually put on the review sheet. That's about tying pieces together. So what I would have you focus on are the things that are higher importance because they are found in multiple sources. You've heard me repeat them multiple times. And you might see them in some crossover between assignments and your textbooks and the notes. That's what you should be looking for. Okay? But everything's fair game. But I do focus on the things that are higher importance. So I want to know y'all understand stuff. That's what I'm looking for. Any other questions about that? To move on, we can talk about brains that we're going to be testing you on instead of just fun test. I thought I saw those hands over here. Nope. Okay. Do you have questions if you're reading? studying, you can reach out to me. I have been, several of you have taken me up on office hours, or meeting outside of class, or meeting outside of my office hours if office hours don't work for you. I couldn't move them because of scheduling problems. But I have been meeting with several of you, so more of you can take me up on this. That's a good way of learning this stuff. Take Laura up on her offer sheet. If you can't go to review sessions, she does meet with folks outside of the review sessions, and she's often quicker at answering emails as well. I think I told y'all I get probably 60 to 70 emails a day, and I can't check over the weekends. I have a family. So I have to go first in, first out. So I go through my emails every day, but I can only get through so many in the time I have. That's why it takes so long to get back to y'all. So if you have a question about the exam, ask now. Don't wait until the day before, because I might not be able to get back to you in time. Unless I spend like that whole 8 hours, the 8 hour day before only answering emails. I guess there's something else about that too. Oh, somebody else mentioned while I was walking around that one thing she did when she was reading about neurons was actually just to draw on a chalkboard she had. And that's something else that I highly recommend doing. If you can draw on paper, and that's one thing, but there's something about drawing on a medium like chalkboard or a little whiteboard or something that makes it a lot easier because you can fix it in Excel, you can adjust things, and it's a little easier than on paper in a lot of cases. So if you have access, even just like a little whiteboard would do it, just to practice going through all your structures and getting them cemented in your brain. I also recommend study groups. I know some people are better at studying alone, as you pointed out, Robin, right? As Robin pointed out, explaining things to somebody is one of the best ways to study. And even if you're explaining to a classmate that's in here, and they can actually check if you're right or not, which is something nice bonus. So I do recommend studying together too. It's not easy for everybody. Everybody has busy schedules, but yeah. Okay. Any other questions about that? We can move on. We have slides here. One class. Y'all acknowledge. I'm still very much liking this textbook. I loaned my book out to another student in here, my old book, and it was a lot more detailed than this is. So I'm really liking this book because it really highlights why these things are relevant. As an aside, don't feel daunted by the level of detail I'm asking you. As a way to compare kind of what is expected, what has previously been expected. An atlas was recommended. But the textbook for this class is probably 3 times as thick. And it covered similar things, and it didn't even get into disorders for the most part. It had like 1 case per chapter. So I'm really liking this because it's highlighting the connection of the topics we're talking about to the disorders. And that's really the point of this class. So you can start to connect these things to what else you're talking about. Has that been y'all's experience so far? Has that been pretty clear? Yeah.
I own the textbook from last year because I tried to register for this course
Oh,
and ended up dropping it. And I was going to try to just use that as a substitute for this and save the money. And I looked through the chapters and it was horrible compared to the online sample of this. So I just went ahead and bought it.
It is. It's not even that it's more depth. It's just confusing, dense. I think like the paragraphs are like 2 pages long. So I know you have no way to compare it. I just want you to know this is better. I promise. The reading is so much better. I got a sample of this about 1.5 years ago, and I just didn't have the time to review it until the summer. I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna switch and see what happens. And so far, so good. I'm reading it along with you guys. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Okay. It's okay. So we're gonna start at the spinal cord and work our way up. So the spinal cord, is it the central or the peripheral nervous system? Central. Why is that?
It's an extension of the
It communicates out.
How do you know that?
case of bone.
It's in bone. It's in case I'm bone. That's right. I like that because it is. Silly question. It's housed in that bony vertebral column. So it goes through the vertebrae. What view is this? What kind of view? Lateral. Yeah. divide your vertebral column into 5 sections, so you have your cervical vertebrae up here, your thoracic vertebrae, your lumbar vertebrae, and your sacral vertebrae, right? And then the coccyx, which is your tailbone at the very bottom. If you look along the vertebrae, you have the holes in the bone, and that's where the nerves come out. So that's where the nerves emerge from the spinal cord. The roots are part of the spinal cord, then they emerge and go where they need to go. So basically what your spinal cord is doing is, your brain's all about connections and communication. So basically your spinal cord is the way to convey that information, that communication to the rest of your body. And also to collect information from the rest of your body and apply it to things that are necessary in your brain. So you have motor, or efferent, and sensory, or afferent information that goes between the brain and the body. So we talked a little bit about efferent versus afferent last time, right? I'm saying those really clearly because my vowels are different than y'all's vowels because I'm from Texas. So sometimes they sound really similar. So efferent with an E because it exits your brain. Then you have afferent, the funny A in phonetics. Afferent because it ascends. It goes out sensory to your brain. That was one of your questions, right? So motor information is efferent, and is it brain to body or body to brain? Brain to body. Sensory information? Body to brain. Right. And what also is sensory information called? Afferent. Sensory, afferent, body to brain. Got it? There are 4 different types of fibers. So you have different fibers that communicate with different types of muscles and serve different purposes. So you have GSE and GBE that connect to skeletal muscles or things you have voluntary control over versus smooth muscle that is controlled without your conscious awareness. So your esophagus, your heart, different glands. Then you have sensory fibers that come up from your skin and that give you information from your digestive tract and your lungs. This is a picture I've probably drawn 5,000 times, learning about all the spinal cord structures. Oh, and actually Laura Cantor told me when she was taking a functional neuroanatomy class, in lieu of slides, they would have a list of features, and the class was simply the instructor drawing each structure, and everybody was drawing it with the instructor, which I thought was an interesting way to do things. So that's one way to think about taking notes, is to be drawing it out and thinking through it. I think it's a really powerful way to be learning this stuff. These are the major landmarks of the spinal cord. So what kind of view is this? Superior. What kind of slice? Horizontal, sagittal, horizontal, vertical, horizontal slice. It's going like this. And then it's like we took a slice out, tilted it up to show y'all. Okay? So you have the anterior median fissure. So is this the front of the body or the back of the body?
Front.
The front of the body. That's the anterior, right? So it's like if I was laying down, that would be my spinal cord right there. So you have this median fissure. Fissure just means a split, right? Like a fissure in rock. You have the central canal that goes right down the middle. Where you have CSF, or cerebrospinal fluid. The inside of the spinal cord always looks like a butterfly. That's how you know what you're looking at. And what is that butterfly made of? What's it made out of?
White.
That's your white matter. Yep. It's reversed. Then you have your. Did I say that backwards?
Oh.
Look at that picture here. Did I ask you about the butterfly or outside? So which one's the butterfly?
Great.
Did I say white? It's gray matter. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh my gosh. I thought I asked the other direction. I'm sorry. I have like scripts in my head when I'm talking. Said the wrong ones. Okay. So it's reversed of what your brain is. That was the point. That's what I was trying to say. So that's what runs through the whole middle. And then all those things connect to the white matter, the nerves, right, that go out. So you have the ventral, the belly, the nucleus, and you have the ventral horn of that gray matter in here. And it's just the belly-sided horn. And then you have the dorsal horn along the back. We'll come back to the functions of those in just a second. This is one of your drawing assignments, to draw one of these. So you can add more than what I'm requesting on that assignment if it helps you figure out what things are. Okay, so you have these other major landmarks that I sort of told you about on that previous slide, or pointed out anyway. It's just a list of things. Okay, can y'all tell where everything's pointed? Bless you. Can y'all tell where all these things are pointing? Pretty straightforward, huh? We'll come back to purposes here. So the major purpose of your spinal cord, again, is communication. So all these different tracks run through, there are about a dozen sensory and motor tracks that run through your spinal cord. This is just a random slice, kind of showing where these things sometimes are. The tricky thing with drawing these is that at different levels of your spinal cord, those tracks will look quite different. So if you ever look at a picture of a cross-section of a spinal cord and think, that doesn't look like the picture in my book, or that doesn't look like that picture I memorized, it's probably because it's at a different level in the spinal cord. And it can look quite different. So instead of a little dot, you might see a big region, or it might be shifted a little bit. They'll be in the same general area, but it can look quite different. So don't let that confuse you. Just keep in mind that those tracks look different at different levels, okay? But this is just demonstrating where they run. So you have these dorsal columns back here, and then you have the ventral columns around in the, more towards the dorsal side, the ventral side, sorry. The dorsal side, so one thing I always think about is it's a lot of sensory information that goes into the dorsal horns. And one way it was explained to me was just imagine somebody tickling your back. Your back's not actually that ticklish, so I don't know why that exists. But that's a really common way to remember dorsal for sensory and ventral for motor. Okay. These tracks are really important for motor speech. So depending on which of these tracks is a lesion, for example, if somebody has a spinal cord injury, or you can have a focal stroke that affects your spinal cord, especially around your brainstem and the cervical region of the spinal cord, it can affect the motor control of your articulators, and whether that's voluntary control, whether it is postural control. That'll all depend on which tract is affected. So for example, the voluntary control of your trunk muscles are affected if the anterior corticospinal tract is lesioned. So then you might have trouble sitting up straight. And that's really important for speech language pathologists. Why? I think that is. Yeah, so breath support of your voice would be really poor, or it might be difficult to get a deep enough breath to support normal volume. The cerebrospinal tract, another example here, is involved with flexor tone. So you might have specific trouble with specific muscle movements, flexors versus extensors. So you'll see different postures, all that kind of stuff. Then you have these dorsal sensory tracts. One really interesting thing I like to point out, you've all heard we have 6 senses, right? We actually have a lot more than 6 senses. And it's not because we have extrasensory perception or anything. It's what are the 6 major senses? We have sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste. We don't have a 6th sense. The 6th sense is that extrasensory perception. So you hear 5 senses. I'll give you a bonus sense. Your psychic abilities are 6. So touch is one that's actually expanded a bit, and one that's not on this list at all is actually proprioception and your vestibular sense. You know where you are in space. So if you were to close your eyes and put your arm out, you would know your arm is, right? Just close your eyes for a second. Where are your hands? You know where they are. Right, good, that's perfect exception. So that's one of your senses you don't know, they don't usually talk about. And you don't just have touch, so you have texture, you have pressure, and you have pain. You also have temperature. So they've identified at least 6 other senses that are related to touch in our minds, but they actually involve different pathways. So you can have, and different parts of your body have different concentrations of those sensory abilities. So for example, have you ever touched something cold and it felt wet? Have you ever done that? And it didn't actually feel cold? So you're not feeling the temperature necessarily, you're feeling the texture and translating it. Your brain's translating it, interestingly. Or have you ever put your leg against something really hot and didn't realize it was against something really hot? So you just have different concentrations of these in different places.
So with proprioception, if you have complete paralysis of a limb, so you can't feel it or anything, but if you close your eyes, would you still know where that limb is?
So let's break that down. Let's break that question down a little bit. Does everybody hear a question? It's a great question. So if you have paralysis, do you still know where your limb is? Does anybody want to try to answer that?
Yeah.
Phantom, whatever. Yeah. Phantom limb. So you can have phantom limb. When do you get phantom limb? Have you heard of that before?
When
That's
you're,
really animated. So with paralysis, what does paralysis mean?
Loss of feeling and strength.
It's not feeling, it's about movement. So you can't move. That's what paralysis means. Yeah, did you have something you were going to say too? As
I was just
after the fact.
I was just going to say, like, it probably sort of depends on how long you've been paralyzed. And, like, if you are born with a paralysis, but, like, if you can still see, then you're probably used to knowing where that is. So, I don't know.
There's different kinds. That's true. Yeah, anybody else want to speculate?
Well, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Somebody else.
You're right here. Y'all both raised your hands. She's not jumping in, so you go for it.
No, I'm thinking about this.
Doesn't it just depend on as long as you can feel with it, right?
So it's a perfect question because take a look at these pathways. So you can damage your motor pathways without damaging your sensory pathways. So you cannot move and still feel. It's the moral of that story. So paralysis is about movement. So somebody that's paralyzed may, if they've had a severe spinal cord injury, they might be paralyzed and also have severed their sensory tracts, in which case they can't feel or move. But those can be differently injured. So you can have partial spinal cord injury or a focal lesion to the spinal cord or one of these tracts, and you can be paralyzed and still have sensory perception.
But if they are both severed, so if you have no motor, you have no sensory, let's say my arm, I have no motor, no sensory. If someone moved my arm, would I know that it's in a different position if I close my eyes? Okay.
Yeah. So your ultimate question is, yeah, you're right. You would be able to also have proprioception if it was that severely injured. Now, you could lose some sensory information, like you could lose one of these tracts that does the dorsal columns that do fine touch and pressure and proprioception are separate from pain and temperature and crude touch. So if you damage these dorsal columns here, you might lose that proprioception and touch and pressure, but you still might have your spinal thalamic tract down here because it's on the opposite side of your spinal cord down here. And then you could still feel temperature or general touch if you know your leg's being touched but you don't know where, for example. And have you ever done that trick on your belly to feel how far away 2 fingers are? Do you have a friend that lets you do this? Or have a friend do it to you so you know what it feels like? Well, you can do it to yourself right now. Well, no. Never mind, don't touch each other. Okay. Sorry. Just trying to think the best way to tell you all this. So if you get a friend, if you close your eyes and have your friend use 2 fingers to touch your hand, so say, touch my hand and use either 1 or 2 fingers. And so if you go like this versus that, you'll know it's 2 fingers when they do the 2. And you'll go pretty far out, you can feel it as 2, you get pretty close together versus 1, right? You can imagine feeling that. On your stomach, actually, it's not until you get about an inch or 2 apart until you can actually tell it's 2 fingers. So if you close your eyes and have somebody touch on your belly, on your abdomen, 1 finger versus 2 fingers, you won't be able to tell that it's 2 fingers until you get pretty far apart. With all of this sensory information, it really depends on where these nerves run. So you can damage these separately. That's how they know they're separate senses. It's just that injuries aren't usually clean, or it's this nice clean, only one thing.
So, when it comes to something like phantom limb, would you say that that's like the sensory version of like tinnitus? Is that just like hyperproprioception?
Oh, that's a really interesting comparison. I don't know that it compares to tinnitus. I haven't thought through that enough. I'd have to give it more thought. But it isn't. I mean, it is.
Not that they're the same thing, but tinnitus is just.
It's a nice comparison, I think. It's that you've lost the structure that does something, so your brain's sort of filling it in. That's sort of what phantom limb is. You've lost, let's say, your forearm, and you have this nerve bundle at the end. So your brain is still imagining that the arm is there, sort of, because it has the whole pathway of your hand and your head. Yeah, and sort of, and tinnitus is more complex than that, I think. But yeah, it's a good comparison.
So are you still, where does proprioception fit into that, if at all? How are you, how is your brain, you're aware of something like a limb that you don't have?
No, it's a tricky one. Yeah, so I asked before, but does everybody in here know what phantom limb is? Let me just back up and make sure. Okay, all that. So, somebody with phantom limb knows their hand isn't there. They know it's gone. It's just that they feel that it's there, and it can even be in pain. Like I know people have talked about feeling their hand is clenched really tight, and that just has to do with not being able to have that visual feedback of opening their hand. So one of the workarounds is trick your brain, and you know better. So Oliver Sacks actually is one that pioneered this sort of method, and D.S. Ramachandran as well, where you put your hands, and you imagine putting your hand in a box, and you have a mirror here, so it's tricking your brain into seeing two hands. And if your hand, for example, is clenched and you can't open it because it's not actually there, then you keep continuing to relax, closing and then relaxing your hand that is there, and you trick your brain visually into opening it. Now, it's a mix of proprioception, and it's not really clear why it's doing it. It's not necessarily having to do with your spinal cord and your nerves. It really has to do with your topographical motor map and sensory map in your cortex, so along your motor stress, which we'll be talking about like week after next, I want to say. So it's a really complex thing, and some people don't get it at all, some people do, some people don't ever feel the pain, they just sort of feel like it's there. It really varies quite a lot. So I think it's somewhat a separate issue. It's just that your nerve impulses are continuing to work, even though the limb itself is gone. Yeah. That's a fascinating one. If you're curious about phantom limb, I do recommend reading those Oliver Sacks books. He talks about things like that, and kind of the creative ways he works around. So the moral of the story is that you have sensory tracts, and they have fairly specialized functions. If you have a major spinal cord injury, you can injure a lot of them at once, but because they're separate in your spinal cord, you can see different differentiation of impairments depending on where the lesions are. So understanding these tracts is really key to understanding motor speech impairments, for example, and how somebody may have trouble eating and swallowing if they have damaged sensory perception in various ways. They may not be able to tell if food is safe to swallow, if it's too hot or too cold. They may have trouble telling where it is in their mouth. They might have trouble telling what their face is doing during speech. So that feedback loop is disrupted. Yes?
You might have mentioned this time. So are this slice sort of are the limb symmetrical and they're cut like this, or is this just on the lateral spinal tract? Is that on either side?
Oh, that's a good question. No, they just run next to each other.
I mean,
They're not overlapping. They're next to each other in one to one shape.
I just mean like on either side of this Hugo.
Oh,
Or either of these things.
yes.
Occur on both sides.
Yeah. I think this was a way to simplify.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have bilateral, yes, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. I'm sure you weren't the only one that I've heard a bunch of people go, oh. So as we were doing your neurons, we realized you wouldn't be able to fit everything in on that page, right? So that's just why they do that. Because they didn't want to have too many lines going across the drawing. Yes?
Our drawing should go on the other side.
Do what works for you. And that is legible, please. I do recommend outlining it on the other side, just to get around that mental, like, This would just look like fibrous white matter all across. It's not like these have borders in reality. So the pictures won't necessarily help you, but I would recommend drawing on both sides, even if you don't label on both sides. Yes.
So,
If you look at this, you can see it on both sides too.
oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I noticed that two of the tabs are responsible for appropriate sections. One of them is severed and the other is preserved. Like, are there no sections?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question. Did y'all hear her question there? So she noted that your dorsal columns have proprioception and your spinocerebellar tract has proprioception also. They do serve somewhat different functions. I don't have the mental list of what those different proprioceptive type things are. Your cerebellum, or the spinocerebellar tract communicates with your cerebellum, which has specific purposes for proprioception. It corrects error, is what your cerebellum does, more or less. It corrects overshoot, and it helps your hand find things. We'll talk about the cerebellum today, or tomorrow, or Wednesday. So that, it might be the same information, it's just going somewhere different for a different purpose. But I don't think that you have lots of different types of proprioception. You're just going different places.
Yeah, I was wondering if the spinocerebellar was severed, then you might still have better proprioception. After your body.
Yeah, you might still have some, but now you can't maybe correct error, like if your posture's off. Like, for example, after a brain injury, one thing that can happen is this becomes somewhat damaged, and now somebody can't tell where they are in space as well, but they can, so they can remain upright, but they might be off. So, I mean, like I have a friend of mine had a brain injury, and she'll lean to one side. And part of that's because her proprioception is there, but it's not quite lined up right. So, yeah. So it can be partially impaired and not completely gone. All these things can, in fact. Or it's impaired, but not ablated. Yeah, so this is a good example of actually checking out this atlas. It does a better job of going into more detail along the different levels of the spinal cord and showing you where things are on both sides. It still does it a few times though. Where it only shows on one side outline, but for the spinal cord it does both. Any other spinal cord questions? That's good. I know spinal cord is relatively unfamiliar to folks in this field a lot of the time, so I know it's often more daunting. Is that true for y'all? It feels less familiar, I think. Me too. I don't work with this very often. Yeah.
I'm so slightly confused on, so the spinal cord, it goes along the vertebral, like in the middle of the vertebral column, right?
Yes.
So it's all the way down.
Yes.
It's really long.
It is pretty long. It's absolutely true.
Okay.
But it
Yeah, no, I
ends.
know what you're asking.
But it
Yeah.
ends before the end of the spine, right?
Well,
It doesn't.
the
end at
different.
the
Go ahead. Finish your question. Sorry.
Well, I just remember like the horse hairs or whatever coming out the bottom. They don't emerge
You don't
from
have
the
like all
very
of them down.
tip of the tailbone.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so they exit in different places. Yeah. Is that sort of what you were asking? Sorry if I misunderstood that. So yes, they have different exit points. So they decussate in different places or cross over. And depending on where they're going, they will exit the different pieces of them will exit as they go down. That's why the shape will change as you get lower down. But these columns do run the length of your spinal cord in different diameters. Yeah. You can see here, I'll show you a map. So if you open up your atlas, slide this to the spinal cord chapter.
This is the first one.
It's like, I think it's like page 80-ish, around there, let me find a good one. You can kind of see where they exit and where they start out. Where'd that at go? I just looked at it. I was flipping through while I was talking to you. Whatever. 8, 6, and 7. That's a pretty good one, yeah. at the same thing, but you can get an idea of what I'm talking about if you look at these projections. So each one of these pathways is a projection from somewhere. It's not that these things aren't originating in the spinal cord, right? They're coming from somewhere, they're going to somewhere. It's just that they're traveling along this highway in their spinal cord. And so if we were to take the spinal cord away and just look at the blue column, you would be able to follow it to its origination point in the brainstem, and you could follow it out to all its different points where it's giving information if it's motor or if it's collecting information if it's sensory. And each one of these different projections starts somewhere different and ends somewhere different. Yeah.
So when I've seen it in a cadaver, I don't know if they had it dissected, but it looked just like a bundle of individual cords. Is that just
So they pull it apart.
Was it just likely the different tracks that were pulled apart from each other?
I don't know what you're looking at with that picture.
Maybe the trendy one. Kind of looks like the horse tail, like all different.
Yeah, like it's not one big entity, right? It's more of like a.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It is. It's a bundle.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were to do a cross section, a real one, it wouldn't look smooth like this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of different.
Yeah. So if you. Yeah. So it looks like this, in fact. Right.
Yeah.
It's like fibers.
Yeah. And then each fiber is tracked, right?
Yeah. It's a bundle of hair. Horse tail that doesn't come out the end. So it doesn't look smooth like this. This is just a comical depiction.
So that's
That's
just
not the right
one.
word.
That's just one of the tracks.
This is the whole spinal cord. I can see why this picture is confusing you now. Catch that. Just imagine that this whole thing is a bunch of fibers that we cut, and now we're looking. It's like cutting across a rope. Imagine this is a rope. And now we're cutting across a rope, and we're looking at the top of it. Imagine what that looks like. Right? Or if I was to look at my hair and look at the top of it. Does that make sense? That's what's here. That's what we're looking at. All it's doing is, imagine this is all hair tips. And I'm just saying these hair tips are part of the lateral vestibulospinal tract. Got it? I liked your O, thank you. And also your spinothalamic tract. So it should be hairs. Go back in time and recreate this picture with just a bunch of dots. So what we need cadavers, guys. This is not as helpful as looking at it for real.
So then I'm confused about the different sizes. So like the dorsal columns are bigger in this. Is that true in the spinal cord?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Just because they're separate, they're not the track. Okay.
Yeah. So the size is just really about how much of the fiber is part of that tract, and that'll vary based on where you are looking in the cross section. So if you're up on the top part, a lot of these tracts will appear bigger, and as you get lower and lower down, just like your spine gets smaller towards the base, or different things become more important. And those tracts will be a different shape and size because those fibers are exiting the body, or they're exiting the spinal cord. Sorry, they're not exiting your body. That would be not actually interesting. So they're collecting information. So they're going to be getting bigger as they go up. They're going to be exiting your motor tracts are going to be exiting. Your sensory tracts are going to be coming in, and collecting in that hair fiber tract as it goes up. Your white matter is all your axons, so these neurons. Yes.
So even in like the lateral corticospinal tract, even in that, there's the little nerve things. That's not just one separate spot, but there's a bunch of little tracks inside.
Bundle of tracts.
Okay.
Or it is a tract. It's a bundle of axons that make up that tract. That's what these are. These are bundles of axons. Tails. Axon tails that are going all the way down the spinal cord. Yes.
So does this work similar to like the brain? So if you get one side of it that's kind of gets, I guess, something happens on one side, is it, I don't know, is it able to, like, is the other side able to make up for that deficiency?
Oh, so that
Like asking about plasticity, I guess, is the vertebral, is the spinal cord just
is it just as plastic? So if I damage the left lateral spinal tract, would like the right one pick it up? That's sort of what you're asking?
Yeah.
No. So that's easy. So that's why you'll see paralysis, or somebody has paralysis on one side of their body, maybe, or maybe one-sided leg paralysis or one-sided face paralysis, because that tract is damaged on that side, and that tract innervates that side. Does that make sense? So in your spinal cord, are these tracts ipsilateral or contralateral to what they're innervating? Ipsilateral, until you get where?
To the medulla.
Medulla, for the most part. 80% of your fibers decussate. Decussate means cross over at the level of the medulla. So your brain, say your motor strip, which we haven't gotten to, but say your left motor strip, which side of your body does that innervate? Right. That's right. So your left cortical hemisphere is contralateral to the side it actually is representing. Crosses over. But at your spinal cord, all that crosses over, all the nerves that control your body cross over in your medulla. 80% of them do anyway. And so when you get to your spinal cord, if I damage the right side of my spinal cord, the right side of my body won't work as well. Does that make sense? Depending on the level of your spinal cord you injure, if you injure it very low, you might get lucky and only have a leg affected. If it's injured higher up, you can affect that spinal cord. If you injure it higher up, you might have more fibers that are affected. Right? So the higher up you go, the more widespread the function change will be. Yes?
Could you repeat that word you said, crossing over the medulla?
Decussate. Yes. I'd write it, but that board is not helpful. Here we can type it. So keyword, I'll just type it for y'all. Decussate. You see that? There. It's in your book.
It's on the quiz.
It's on the quiz also. I'll type it here so you can see it. There. And the contralateral and ipsilateral are also important. Good. We'll come back to that when we talk about the brainstem. That is it. 5 more minutes. Let's get through the spinal cord. Okay. How's everybody feeling about those tracks? You understand more what they are now? Does everybody sort of get what the confusion was a minute ago? That's great. You all did a nice job of understanding each other, helping me understand all the different things. So it's a bundle of fibers in the spinal cord. It's not a plastic tube like your book depicts. It's a bundle of axons. So you have this efferent and afferent information that goes between the body and brain. The other thing that your spinal cord can do without having to go all the way to your brain is reflex arc, right? So you have impulses from your leg muscle that will be sent to the spinal cord and pass to your motor neuron. So you have the stretch receptor that's activated through like a hammer tap. And it's not like in the movie where they whack your leg. It's like a little tiny tap or a jaw. Stabilizer tap. Little small tap. That travels to your spinal cord. So you have this afferent neuron here. The impulse is sent to the motor neuron, which causes your leg muscle to contract. So have you all seen an image of somebody having a reflex? We watched the breast crawl, that's a little different. But when somebody taps the taps the jaw, taps, yeah. You can test your friend's reflexes. An easy one is another belly one. You may have ever done the abdominal reflex before. You have 4 quadrants on your abdomen. And if you tickle right there, your belly button jumps to your tickle. You can't do it on yourself, you can do it on a friend. Nice friend. Good friend. And that's a reflex arc. That doesn't have to travel to your brain to work. It's only in your spinal cord. So that's why it's called that arc. And that's why the picture is limited to this. So it's traveling through the fibers of your nerve, going through the dorsal horn, going back out the ventral horn to your muscle and causing that reflex. So you inhaled.
Seeing in the book doesn't make sense. This does.
Got it. These are besides having to survive infancy. So you're gonna go.
Protect.
Is that just, I don't know. Is that like when something's hot and you pull away before you even think about it type of thing?
Yeah, you do have a reflex for temperature pain.
Just for protection?
Yeah, that's the main function, to protect you. So you've all done that, right? And then you're like, oh, that was hot. Or you say ow before you realize what you're, or you pull your hand away and then you say ow, or something like that. It's always good that you do that. We've been talking about this a little bit, so this will be our last slide for today, and we'll continue on Wednesday. So damage to the, anyone grab that yet? It's about 2 whole minutes. You got damage to the spinal cord. Damage to the spinal cord is a fairly common injury that you'll see. And a lot of times speech language pathologists and audiologists won't work with these folks unless it's affecting the respiratory support or speech and swallow function. A lot of times if you see a spinal cord injury, or if it affects writing or reading actually, the other time you might see it, but you won't necessarily be addressing the impairment. You'll just be trying to work around it or providing alternative means of communication. Paraplegia or paraparesis, which involves the legs, means that they're paraplegic. That means it's not moving at all. Paraparesis means you have paraparesis, is where you have weakness. So you have a lowered ability to move where it hasn't been completely severed, but now you have weakness because you can't control it quite as well. And that's not because the muscles are weak, it's because the innervation isn't strong enough to help the muscles move like they should. Does that make sense? So when it's a nerve injury, it's not that the muscles aren't there anymore or that they're too small. So exercise won't help you. It's that the nerves aren't doing their job. They're not sending the right signals. When you have quadriplegia or quadriparesis, that's when you have arms and legs. And it can be, again, complete loss of movement and sensation, or just parts, depending on what's damaged. We've been talking about.
What is it necessarily your arms? Or just that?
If it's, if you have so think about that for a second. So think about how the spinal cord works. And if you sever up high where your arms are affected, that means you're also disrupting that flow of information lower. It's a perfect question. Everybody get that? So you're not going to get just arms affected. It's going to affect everything downstream also because of how your spinal cord communicates to your body. It's top to bottom.